Let's make sure that works. Okay, you should be able to hear me now. All right, let's try that again. Okay, well, once again, we're back live. I see you, Dragon and Patricia. Yeah, I guess audio was muted. All right, so we're going to talk about the weird and the woolly that's happening in the political class, the content creator class on the conservative side, and even some drama we might touch on with Kash Patel. Tucker Carlson exposed the FBI. You see, turns out the original assassin, the one that actually shot Trump, looks like he had a social media presence. And so now you've got conservative content creators calling for the resignation of the FBI leader Kash Patel for not exposing this sooner. But my friends, I gotta be honest, a lot of this stuff is it's a little bit funny and a little bit crazy because you've got the Epstein drama. I mean, all of this is coming together, but here's what I think. The doomsayers, the RINO Republicans, the Republicans in name only, and again, the content creator class, specifically the faux conservative creators. Remember the Hodge twins who went on the attack against Trump for attacking Iran's nuclear facilities? As soon as there's an opportunity, these people jump on the hate Trump train, specifically because it's all about clicks. It's all about engagement. They don't really care. And as soon as they think that he's on his way out, they will try to destroy him. And there's a lot of predictions now that MAGA is breaking apart, that it is dead, and that there will be a new class of voters on the right. There will be the old MAGA, the old, worn-out, tired MAGA people, and there will be the American first right. That's the prediction from a lot of these people. And they will point to the Epstein stuff, which, can I just say that the Epstein drama, it seems like a never-ending drip, drip, drip. There's never any there, and I don't think there ever will. Mostly because, look, I think common sense tells me that if there had ever been anything there, when the left had the opportunity, they would have used it. Especially when Trump got into power and they were trying so desperately to get rid of him and everything they did fell apart. I think they would have used it. And secondly, let's say there was something there. I think also when you had the Biden administration in power, there was definitely going to be some leftists who were on that island partying up with Epstein, who wouldn't want that to see the light of day. So I've always assumed that anything that's pertinent or valuable would have long since been destroyed. That's just, I never expected to actually get anything of value from it. I gave up on it long before even his current presidency took place. I just figured, like the John F. Kennedy stuff, I don't think we're ever going to really know what happened. And there will just be innuendos and drip, drip, drip conversations about it. And it'll always be about Orange Man bad and innuendos about what he may or may not have done. And so you got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is going off the deep end here. And now she's apologizing for her past bad behavior to the left-wing media. Check this crap out. This is from Fox News. Marjorie Taylor Greene apologizes for taking part in toxic politics amid the Trump attacks. Let's watch.
Posted on X that President Trump is, with his comments, fueling a, quote, hotbed of threats against you. Obviously, any threats to your safety are completely unacceptable. But we have seen these kinds of attacks or criticism from the president at other people. It's not new. And with respect, I haven't heard you speak out about it until it was directed.
She's going for the jugular right now.
At you.
Dana, I think that's fair criticism. And I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic
there it is.
Politics. It's very bad for our country.
Oh, no.
And it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions. And I am committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another.
Seeing the
and we
light.
need to figure out a new path forward that is focused on the American people, because as Americans, no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we have far more in common than we have differences.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to respect each other with our disagreements.
Now, the question is do we though? Right now, modern leftism, modern liberalism, modern wokeism is antithetical to everything that the right is for. There really isn't a lot of common ground here. And you can see she's trying to set herself up as the new John McCain, the new Gang of Eight participant. If for those of you who might be 3,000 years old and might remember the early 2000s, where you had a group of Republicans ally themselves with a group of Democrats to try and bring moderation to the conversation. And of course, it always swung one way. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she is under the gun now with Donald Trump, she knows her political career is probably dead with the right. And her only chance is for leftists to vote for her, or she's going to become a political commentator who they will use and abuse on the left for as long as she's valuable in attacking Orange Man bad. I think that's the future for Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's just, and then at the same time, like this took place around 9 a.m. this morning. Then you have an article from the New York Post going on to discuss this a few hours later, where it turns out that Marjorie Taylor Greene is insisting that she still supports Trump while repeatedly slamming him. So we'll get to that in a second. But I don't know. When I look at these people, the content creator class, the political class, the TDS types, the Never Trumpers, the Candace Owen types, the Megyn Kellys of the world, they're going to have their audiences that they will appeal to. But when it comes to the MAGA base and what might actually affect voting, honestly, none of these people are going to matter a hill of beans. You might be wondering, well, how can you say that? Well, because the priorities for the current iteration of the right, the MAGA movement, is pretty straightforward. There are a couple of massive top one, top two priorities to take precedence over all, because most people on the right look at it as themselves saving the country. MAGA is just an offshoot of the Tea Party movement, which simply grew and morphed into something new. These are people who believe that they're trying to save the country from imminent destruction. You've got priority one when it comes to the MAGA movement. Get rid of mass illegal immigration. Get rid of the crisis. Remove the infestation to save the country. That's priority one. Why? Because the left has made it a point to say, we're going to give these people amnesty. We're going to change the political world to a one-party system once and for all, and we're going to get it done soon. And they've tried 9 times since 2000 to do this. There's very little time, because sooner or later, you're going to get amnesty. And those illegal aliens who are still in the country will get that amnesty if they're still here. And then there's priority 2. And this is right after priority 1, illegal immigration, and that is the economy. Now, there are other issues that matter, but those two are so far and away high above everything else atop the peak that none of these other things, the Epstein dramas, all that, they don't really matter that much when it comes to saving the country. It's the same reason why people didn't care the first time when you had Donald Trump out there with the leaked audio saying, grabbing the pussy, all that. People don't care, not because they don't find it unbecoming, untoward, but because there's a bigger issue at stake here, and that's saving the country. Not whether you feel good about who this person is. And I've had people that I know that are otherwise bright and intelligent who just can't seem to wrap their head around this. I keep getting business associates of mine sending me articles about, oh my God, did you hear this? Nick Fuentes is saying da-da-da-da-da, and the MAGA base. I'm like, what the hell are we even talking about here? Nick Fuentes is not a conservative. He doesn't appeal to conservatives. He's on his own frickin' island. I mean, Alex Jones would be more on the right than a Nick Fuentes. Candace Owens, none of these people, and even Tucker Carlson, and I like Tucker, but he's off on his own island, which is fine. He's building a career for himself. You know, there's going to be things that cross over with, because Tucker, out of all of those, probably is the most aligned with MAGA in general, but there are going to be some defining differences of opinion. D says no sound, or maybe you're behind on the stream. Okay. Yeah, so I was just checking because of the problem we had. Yeah, and so I like Tucker a lot. I think he's fascinating, and he's one of the last true journalists from the old world that still exist. I mean, you got some other people out there, but still. So again, easily the most definable issues that the MAGA base cares about that helped them coalesce around Donald Trump in his first term was mass immigration and the economy. That's it. Everything else is ancillary. Everything else is after that. And so if Donald Trump fails to keep up the deportation train, if he fails to address the economy, those two things would potentially hurt him in midterms. But let me tell you something. The Epstein stuff, not going to matter a hill of beans when it comes to the midterms. There's Marjorie Taylor Greene, not going to matter a hill of beans when it comes to the midterms. Nothing that's happening right now is going to matter when it comes to who votes where and what come next year. And most of what we're seeing, frankly, is a bunch of hot air. It's all a Nothingburger. Like when I was looking at this latest Epstein leaks, I mean, honestly, it bores me to death because, again, like I mentioned earlier, there's not going to be a there with this. And the latest stuff was just all a bunch of, gotcha moments. You know, you had the snooze fest crap of Epstein complaining about Donald Trump after he got elected. Angry, obsessed. Well, yeah, the guy that kicked him to the curb years earlier had now achieved ultimate power. Makes sense to me. You had the flight logs, which didn't reveal anything new because why would it? You had some vague lines about Epstein telling Ghislaine Maxwell that Trump had spent hours at his house. Okay. Back in 2011, and then there was the 2019 stuff with that character Michael Wolff that Trump knew about the girls, but we don't know anything more about that. And again, I don't think we're ever going to find anything out beyond that. You know, again, Trump had banned Epstein years ago. Nothing would show, and who knows? I could be completely off base here, but I really don't think we're ever going to get a there with the Epstein stuff. I think the value for the left is they're hoping to make this constant drip, kind of like the Russia thing, where they actively convinced a large segment of the population that somehow Donald Trump was a Russian agent. He was a communist, which is ironic that now he's a fascist, but you get the idea. And there are legitimately people out there who actually believe that Donald Trump works for Putin. So the drip stuff might affect some of the weird people out there, for sure. The low information voters. But again, when it comes to the Epstein stuff, I don't even get that excited when there's like a new update about it. I'm like, okay, let's see what this is. Because I honestly don't think there will ever be a satisfactory conclusion to that story. I don't. Again, I could be wrong, but honestly, I would be shocked if whenever the files are eventually released that there'll be anything more than just a pile of nothing. I think the Democrats who were on the Epstein Island, I think we'll never find out about them either. I mean, who knows? Who knows? So, yeah. So let's shift back over to our good friend, the strange one, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is now trying to court the left after getting terminated by Trump. This is by the New York Post. Marjorie Taylor Greene insists she still supports Donald Trump while repeatedly slamming him in bonkers interview after the Epstein fight. Dun, dun, dun. Firebrand Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene insisted Sunday that she still supports President Trump, despite his epic takedown of her, while simultaneously questioning his MAGA bona fides in a madcap interview. While making overtures to end her red-hot feud with Trump, Greene repeatedly slammed the president, accusing him of not being focused enough on the U.S. and putting Americans first. She said, I do support him and his administration, and I support them in delivering the campaign promises we made to the American people. Greene told CNN State of the Union on Sunday. His remarks, of course, have been hurtful. Now, what is Trump doing that isn't what he promised he was going to do leading up to him becoming elected? Some people were upset that, with the Israel situation, right? Bombing Iran and all that. But you didn't get us into any wars. And when it comes to the cartels, blowing up ships in the ocean, I don't feel bad about that. We have a massive drug problem, and that's part of the border issue. It's part of the illegal alien infestation issue. And then everything else is being fought over at the court level. You've got courts actively trying to stop him from firing federal employees, actively trying to stop him from firing FBI agents, and also, you even had a judge out there trying to force the California ICE agency to release all the prisoners that they'd picked up. And again, she has no power to do so, but there it is. Gunmetal Wolf says, still confusing Marjorie Taylor Greene for the card game? Oh boy. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, so she goes on to say, I certainly hope that we can make up. Marjorie Taylor Greene's never going to get a chance to make up with Trump. She's actively trying to destroy him to keep her own career alive, and Trump knows it. And they go on to say that Greene had been one of the Trump's most outspoken backers in Congress, right? Because she saw a chance to try and work off of his coattails. But over recent months, she seemingly soured on him and periodically took swipes at Trump, pressing him to focus more on domestic issues. And on Friday, Trump went nuclear on her, yanking his endorsement for her for re-election and accusing her of going far left. Greene claimed that the flap between her and the president stems from their disagreements over the files pertaining to notorious sex predator Jeffrey Epstein. She said, unfortunately, it's all come down to the Epstein Files. When asked about why she and Trump are fighting, I stand with these women. I stand with the victims. I stand with children who are in terrible sex abuse situations, and I stand with survivors of trafficking. I will not apologize for that. However, throughout the interview, then she knocked Trump on a range of issues, including his welcoming Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara to the White House last week, his support of H-1B visas, and his overseas trips. Which, by the way, I've had friends that were also complaining about this. If you're going to try to do negotiations with countries like with Syria, yeah, you're going to talk to the people who hate you. That will happen from time to time. Now, I am not a fan of any H-1B1 visas, by the way. I think we already have enough people here, both legally and illegally. I think, frankly, those jobs should go to Americans. But you're talking about a very tiny percent of workers in the grand scheme of things. I don't know. It's not no skin off my back there. I'm not going to be upset with someone who's not happy about his support of H-1B visas. But it's never been that big of a deal to me personally. Anyway, Marjorie goes on to say, I can disagree with the president at times, especially this past Monday on the Marines' 250th anniversary, when he honored the new Syrian president who is an al-Qaeda terrorist and was wanted by our government for years. During his fiery screed against Greene on Truth Social last Friday, Trump suggested that her discontent with him was fomented after he sent her a poll stating that she should not run for senator or governor because she was at 12% and didn't have a chance. I mean, honestly, I would have been surprised if she had higher numbers. She's come across as a bit of a nutball for a while now. Greene announced in May that she wouldn't run for Senate, and others have speculated that Trump's opposition to her running for a seat in the upper chamber prompted her to sour on him. Well, yeah, I've always been a bit of the opinion that she was, again, grifting off of his coattails. It seemed like an opportunity to move up the ladder and take advantage. And this, by the way, also, there was plenty of people that did this in his first run for president. You had people that were his allies who then just stabbed him in the back later. This is kind of par for the course. Anyway, she says, this is absolutely not true, meaning that she's not turning on Trump because he told her not to run for the Senate. Actually, I never had a conversation at all with the president about running for Senate or running for Georgia. And those were decisions I came to on my own, that I don't want to have anything to do with the Senate. It's a very broken institution that serves the uniparty. Okay, now we know she's lying. I came to the conclusion on my own that I don't want to have anything to do with the Senate. Shut the hell up. If this girl thought she had a chance at digging her scrawny little fingers into any kind of realm of power, she would do so. What kind of crap is... Oh, I don't want to have to do anything with the Senate because it's very broken. Wow. Okay. That is comedy gold. Not long after Greene passed on a run for Senate, Trump ordered strikes against 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities in a move that angered the congresswoman. She, like a lot of these other content creator grifters, thought that was their opportunity to jump ship. I think they thought that he was actually going to bring in the troops and land on the... I remember watching that happen and thinking everyone was overreacting. If he had attacked Iran and then launched a full-scale invasion of Iran, then yes, I think that would have been problematic for him and his administration. And I think people who voted for him would have a reason to be upset. But destroying their nuclear capability when these a-holes, it's only a matter of time before they get nuclear power, and you do not want a terrorist state having nuclear. That's it. There's only one way this ends. Either with us blowing up their shit so they can't get nukes, or eventually we get nukes in our home territory. That's the way I see it, and I have no patience for that. And I thought it was ingenious. We ended up not getting into a war, and we kicked the shit out of Iran, and they backed down. Good on Trump for that. Anyway, she says, and I said this to him, and I will say it out loud, I would love to see Air Force One be parked and stay home. What the fuck is she talking about? And there'd be nothing but a constant focus in the White House on a domestic agenda that helps the American people once and for all. Well, maybe just, and I'm throwing this out here, but maybe, just maybe, you deal with the courts who are doing everything in their power to block all of Trump's agenda at every turn. And if they really cared about getting the Trump agenda in, and I think this is a mistake, the 60 vote rule, I would get rid of it. You know the Democrat Party is going to get rid of it at some point. Why wait around with it when you can get your agenda in and done? Because if the Democrat Party were to get into power now, they'd be doing a lot of things that would be scary to everyone else, like packing the Supreme Court. They would say, 9's not enough. We need 15. Maybe we need 20, 25. So, yeah. What can I say? Let's see what chat's saying here. Hello, friends of Samuel. Just passing through. Seen the nut of the left. Pretty outside, but a lunatic who's been shamed on TV thoroughly. Would have had to erase to remember her name. Good times. Okay. Now, Greene, as we saw, decried the toxic politics and apologized to the left-wing media, bending over and grabbing the ankles and saying, here you go, to CNN. Saying, I think that's a fair criticism, yada, 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 which, again, we saw. So, I don't know. I think her political career is dead. I really do. I don't know how she recovers from this, other than I think she'll be... And there were theories out here. I know Wolf kind of floated the idea about maybe she is some kind of a plant for the right. Maybe, but I honestly think she's on her way out, outside of being, a guest on networks trying to remain relevant. She's going to be less important than Liz Cheney was, kind of a deal. She's just, Liz Cheney with a side of crazy in my book. So, and if she ever did try to run, she's going to be radioactive to the right. Right now, the way that because look, all throughout the 90s and the 2000s, the right would vote in whichever Republican was put in front of their face. And they say, okay, we're going to get them in there. They would promise all sorts of stuff. They'd get into office, and then they would just drop all the agenda, backstab the voters. And then they would go back to the drawing board and try again. And it just rinse and repeat. They never accomplished anything. But now the folks on the right are hell-bent on saving the country. And so because of that, I just don't see them voting for some bizarre person like Marjorie Taylor Greene. So yeah, and there's you've got all these people on the right trying to push this idea of a civil war and that MAGA is doomed. And you got, like, for example, I saw this on Redacted earlier, where he thinks that Kash Patel should resign because of the cover-up of the assassination attempt at Donald Trump, which I don't know about you, but I always thought that there was a cover-up from the FBI trying to say he had no social media presence right from out the gate. I always thought that was crap. So, yeah, I don't know why Redacted is surprised that there was a cover-up by the FBI, but then to go from there to say, well, because Kash Patel hasn't said anything about it yet until Tucker kind of forced the issue by exposing some of the stuff that was happening during the run-up to the 2024 election, that now it's Kash Patel's problem, problem, and he should resign. This stuff is just kind of nonsense. Watch, we'll play a little bit of this.
This is not going to end well for the FBI and Kash Patel. He needs to resign right now.
So right out the jump, Redacted goes in there and says, okay, Kash Patel needs to pay a price, needs to resign. Let's find out why.
So more on that in a second. But first, this weekend, we're seeing the collapse of MAGA and the rise of America First. We are sick.
And see, again, I'm seeing this with a content creator class, that there's this whole idea that there's a civil war. These guys are looking for clicks. These guys are looking to make the dollars and cents. Well, I guess we're out of pennies, so no more cents, but make the dollars on social media while they can. But outside of the political content creator class, none of this is going to matter when it comes to the voting class.
And tired of this bullshit. People who've held on.
And also, social media is not reality. Just because someone goes online and posts pictures of a burning hat doesn't mean that that's the MAGA base.
On believing that this would be the most transparent administration in history, releasing the Epstein Files, making major arrests, indictments for people involved in the Russia collusion.
Again, that stuff was ancillary. The focus was always on illegal immigration and the economy. Everything else is just extra. Now, maybe Redacted, maybe this guy cared about it being the most transparent administration in history. But again, that's not what the voters are concerned about. At least not the most important thing.
Hoax. But nope, nothing. What about Fauci? What about the COVID hoax? Nothing. Instead, we get attacks against truly America First members of Congress.
Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to see more transparency. But just my feeling on this, I don't think this is what people care about when you have literally the country on the line.
Like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie, who want to release the Epstein Files, who want to shrink the size of government,
And remember, shrinking the size of government is being stopped at every turn from the courts. That was the problem with the Doge agenda, is you literally had the courts blocking the firing of tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of federal employees at every turn. And Trump is having to do this all on his own because these pissant nobodies who are bitching and moaning about transparency are doing nothing to push the agenda forward themselves. They're not aiding the MAGA movement. They're not aiding the Trump administration. They're just sitting there bitching and moaning, saying, why isn't he more transparent? And why are we shrinking the government more? Well, there's also the problem that Trump is not a conservative. Never has been and probably never will be. So you're going to have limited compatibility there, because Trump is going to see spending as a way to push the economy, where conservatives would go all in on just slashing regulations and taxes, et cetera, et cetera.
Accountability.
Snooter says, what a name, that's great. I had to stop watching Redacted due to conspiratorial ideas. Right. He's less annoying than like Candace Owens, whose dreams of Charlie Kirk's ghost speaking to her. But He does have some very strange opinions lately.
For our leaders, but nope. And then we get an FBI that lied and cover up not only the January 6th pipe bomber story.
Now notice in this edit, when he says the FBI that lied, blah, 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 this was pre-Kash Patel, but he uses his image. Why? The idea is to convey to his viewers that, oh, that bad old Kash Patel didn't live up to his expectations. We need him gone. He's the liar.
But also Thomas Crooks, the little dweeby kid that allegedly tried to kill President Trump. We're pissed off. So we need to talk about something that is so explosive, so deeply corrupt, so staggeringly outrageous in my brain that you almost can't believe it's real. But it is, and Tucker Carlson just ripped the lid off of it. It took a journalist like Tucker Carlson.
And by the way, it's great that we learned this. Because again, how obvious was it that the FBI was covering up the assassination attempt? There was no way that they wanted to admit at the time, because the whole country was suddenly alerted to the fact that a president was shot in the head, shot in the ear, and it was a big deal. So if they went out there and if this kid had a social media presence, which it looks like he did, and if he was out there espousing Democrat talking points, that would have been a real big problem here. Of course, the FBI was going to bury that.
And to expose all of their lies. So this week, Tucker dropped a brand new documentary exposing the truth about Thomas Matthew Crooks, the would-be assassin who tried to take President Trump's head off in Butler, Pennsylvania. And what Tucker uncovers isn't just unsettling, it's earth-shattering. It's MAGA-shattering, if you will. And it tells us one thing.
MAGA-shattering? I don't think so. Because again, this wasn't Trump FBI at the time doing this. And he's going to talk about it, I think, but them cremating the body immediately so that no one would have a chance to look at it. There were so many things wrong with what the FBI was doing, and everybody knew that there was government corruption here. So to act like this is, oh my gosh, how is this happening? And it's all Kash Patel's fault now because he's the current FBI leader. It's Trump's fault. It seems like a giant leap of logic here.
One thing very clearly, the FBI lied again. And they're lying to us right now under Kash Patel. And this time they're scrambling, furious because their cover-up is falling apart in real time.
Or they weren't ready to talk about it yet. Because how much you want to bet, there's a lot of people that are going to get charged at some point here. Watching the administration slowly but surely move against former federal government employees has been fascinating. It's been a slow walk, and it's also the first time in our lifetimes that we were seeing anything like this. So, look, Tucker is going to do what he's going to do, and that's fine. But the idea that all of a sudden, well, that means they were lying to us. Well, yeah, they could have come out and just said, hey, guys, guess what? They were covering up. It's cool. We know it now. But there might also be another reason why they're not. We don't know. But to jump in and say what he's saying here, oh, well, that's it. They were lying to us. Kash Patel's got to go. That seems like a bit of a stretch to me. Maybe a long stretch.
So much so that they even started a brand new Twitter account just to try and get out in front of this. Their FBI Rapid Response Twitter.
Yeah, because they have to.
Account. But no one's buying it, and neither should you. But at the end of the day, I'm an optimist. And out of this chaos and security lapses, we could actually have some bright spots, I hope. Maybe we have to tear down the entire FBI.
Now, that I actually agree with him on. I think the whole institution needs to be dismantled and a new agency set up. And everyone involved with it just shown the door. Because I don't trust the FBI as far as I could throw them. I don't. And I never will again. So on that, at least we agree.
So we've got a lot to go through today, but let's start right here. For months, the FBI insisted that Crooks was a ghost. No motive, no online presence,
which we always knew was crap. At least I did.
No digital footprint at all, no associates, just some quiet, awkward kid with a rifle who magically climbed on a roof and almost assassinated a former president of the United States in broad daylight. Okay, sure. Totally normal.
Right, and I think everybody knew how ridiculous the whole thing was. This is not a surprise.
But Tucker's new documentary, along with leaks from FBI whistleblowers, blows that entire narrative to pieces.
The fact the body was cremated made it impossible for investigators outside the FBI to verify the coroner and autopsy report. You can't do
which we already knew.
New tox screen because the body doesn't exist.
So the FBI was lying to us. Shocking. It turns out that Thomas Crooks wasn't a ghost at all. He had an extensive online presence stretching back years. Again, something the FBI...
Which, again, no shit. Pretty much everybody has a social media presence today.
Lied right to our faces about, testifying before Congress, no less.
You're telling me a 20-year-old kid who's grown up in the digital era figured this out when he was, 13? To never get an online presence? We've seen nothing. Nothing. We're now 6 weeks in. There's not a Facebook photo.
Well, it turns out that was a lie. He didn't just have an online presence. He had violent posts. He had political messages.
And are you surprised? I'm not. But the leap of logic here to say, well, now that's Trump's fault now, and this is why it's the MAGA killing. Like, what the hell is he talking about?
He had searches, comments, history, data trails, all of it. And you're telling me the most powerful domestic intelligence agency on earth somehow couldn't find any of it? Give me a break. Even Miranda Devine from the New York Post, the one, of course, who blew open the Hunter Biden laptop story, and everyone ignored her. She asked the one question every American should be screaming right now about. She said, why did it take Tucker Carlson to expose this? Where was the FBI? What were they hiding? Tucker's team found what the FBI claimed didn't even exist. Hundreds of Crooks's online posts and interactions, violent rhetoric, obsessions with political assassinations, research into presidential...
And it's a fair question. But again, I'm sorry, what? So Trump was going to cover up his own assassination attempt? The opposition was in charge? I don't see the leap of logic here.
Security procedures, searches about sniper distances, and evidence that he'd been in Washington, D.C. weeks before the shooting because his cell phones were tracked to the nation's capital. That's interesting. But the FBI told us none of this was real, just a conspiracy theory. They said he had no meaningful online signature, no online presence. He was a ghost. Which brings us to the next bombshell. Dan Bongino, former Secret Service, now FBI Deputy Director, Kash Patel's right-hand man, he dropped a massive piece of information on Maria Bartiromo's show. He said his team combed through every detail of the case early on. They told us Crooks had zero online presence, none. Total blank slate. Watch.
In some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there. And I know.
And I do think this was a tactical mistake. I think they would have been better off saying nothing. At some point, my guess was this was going to be used. But again, it's the same drama here that we've been seeing. And I don't know. I still think it's a giant leap to go from Biden's FBI covering up, which we all knew, to now, MAGA's at fault here. We need to fire all of these guys and it's going to break up the MAGA base. I don't know. It seems like a giant leap of logic to me. But you might disagree with me on that. I don't know. Again, the bigger picture, the bigger stakes here, is what matters to me personally. So, who knows? We'll have to see what happens. But as far as Marjorie Taylor Greene goes, again, I expect her to be working with the left more and more. You can expect to see her pretty much on every left-wing talk show that they can for the short term, and then we'll see if she's good for ratings. I would expect to see a lot more of her in the near future. So there you go. So that is the drama that's happening right now, and that is the end of the MAGA base. The Civil War is beginning. But again, I don't think that will end up coming to fruition. I don't think anything that's happening right now is going to have any impact on the midterms. Whatever is going to impact the midterm elections hasn't happened yet. That I'm 100% certain on. Nothing that we're seeing here will even be talked about a year from now. It just won't. There'll be much bigger things to discuss, and we'll just have to see what that ends up being. So, well, let's check chat before we wrap it up today. Let's see. Mr. X says I think she's going to run as a Democrat. I just don't know that the left would vote for her. I could see her running as an independent, maybe. Trying to play spoiler, but the left does not like her. she doesn't have even the panache of a Liz Cheney. So I don't know. Get Lost says, I even asked why they're constantly using an old photo of the shooter. Yeah, they like to do that. Makes him seem more innocent, I guess. Let's see. Really, only 10 to 11 months in, we're burning MAGA hats. Yeah, there's with all the AI generated crap and with all the fake crap that's on social media. Like social media is not real life. It's just not. None of that stuff seems to really ever matter. Let's see, Bongino makes me angry right now. He lied to all of us. Yeah, I think that again, Bongino. I think them going out and doing news conferences, because they dropped the ball bad on the original Epstein file release drama. That was a giant fuck up, but not a screw up that would actually affect elections. It was not going to affect the MAGA movement. It was just disappointing. And my guess is you had people, because there was a lot of the old guard still in at the FBI. My guess is that they got screwed with and they were too inexperienced, let's just say, to notice. And it was a big L. But again, not one that was going to affect elections and not one that's going to affect the Trump base. Because why? Because again, the Epstein stuff was ancillary. It matters, but not enough when it comes to saving the country. That's it. Get lost. I'm still for Trump 2028. And that's my point. Like, yeah, look, there's gonna be things that annoy people, and Trump is not always going to float your boat. But at the end of the day, he's the only one out there that seems to be doing something about ending illegal immigration. And no one else is. And you don't want to end up like the UK, where everything's falling apart out there. Dragon says, I wish Barron Trump could run. He's got no mercy. I would expect to see him in the political world somewhere down the road. My guess is he's going to be a lot less nice than his dad is, because he's probably pretty pissed off at what they try to do to his dad. So, all right, my friends. Well, as ever, always, I think we're going to leave it here. And for those of you who do not know, and if you want to see less stick to the issues type content, check me out on my alt channel. This is Topical Umbrella, which you can find it at youtube.com at Topical Umbrella. And here, like we talked about, the Russian Sputnik robot that took a tumble, the transgender feuds and more, and more sarcasm, more humor on this channel. And then we finally, it took forever. We had a lot of, I was trying to get the store running for this channel, and I had to jump through a lot of hoops because we were doing an ICE related shirt, and for whatever reason I kept getting denied by different stores till we finally found a non-woke white hat operation. So we did do that. So actually I have a store that's operational and running, and it's nice to see that this is actually working, because I've been trying to get this up forever. So that's pretty much going to do it. Thanks everyone for joining me. Thank you again for Steppenwolf, who has been doing a wonderful job at moderating. Thank you, Dragon, Frank, and everyone else in the chat. You guys are amazing. I appreciate all of you. And yeah, we'll have to do this again. I'm going to be trying to stream periodically on the weekends for the short term, and I'll be doing more pre-recorded content for the Monday through Friday for the short term during the week, and then we'll try to do some streaming on the weekends when I'm able to do it. But eventually we'll get a more consistent streaming schedule in this, so we'll go from there. But again, guys, thank you so much for being with me today, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.